Florida and Florida State, easily two of the most historically successful programs in all of college football, combining to win 24 conference titles, 6 national titles, as well as producing 6 Heisman Trophy winners. There isn't really much to say about these two great programs that most people already don't know, as there have been countless videos made on these two schools. So today we're going to be doing something a little different. During the 2025 college football season, Florida and Florida State managed to do something that hasn't been done since 1978. History was made this year by these Florida schools, and not the good kind. This year marks the first time since 1978 both Florida and Florida State failed to make a bowl game, and we're going to find out just how they managed to pull off this incredible feat. I'm Amateur Lore, and if you enjoyed the content, be sure to leave a like and a sub. Now let's find out how UF and FSU made history during the 2025 college football season. Oh yeah, also this is a quick heads up, I'm going to be mispronouncing Thomas Castellano's name sometimes in the video, so. Let's start this shit show off with my favorite college football team, the Florida Gators. Man oh man, where do I begin with this 2025 Gator football team? Well, first I think it's very important to give some perspective. 2025 for all intents and purposes was lining up to be the year Florida and Billy Napier made the jump from mediocrity to maybe great. I'm not saying the fans as a whole were expecting the Gators to win the SEC and finish ranked inside of the top 5, but I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a couple of delusional Florida fans thinking they could compete for one of the 12 college football playoff spots. Okay, you got me. I was that delusional fan. But how can you blame me? PFF had our offensive line ranked as the 4th best coming into the season. Our starting quarterback, who we shall not name just yet, was ranked by Fox as the 7th best signal caller coming into the season. And I think the thing that gave me the most copium was how the Gators ended 2024, winning 4 straight games with 2 of those wins coming against 22nd ranked LSU and 9th ranked Ole Miss. Yes, maybe I was being a little delusional and should have remembered the fact that my head coach has gone 6-7, 5-7, and 8-5 in his 3 years calling the shots so far. However, in my defense, the wider college football world media was a little delusional too, because the AP would rank the Florida Gators 13th to begin the 2025 college football season. The Gators were ranked higher in the preseason than future playoff teams such as Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Indiana, Ole Miss, and Texas Tech. Yeah, I know, crazy, right? Alright, so moving over to just the SEC itself, I will give credit to the SEC media because they were more realistic when it came to Florida, having them as a middle of the pack type of team, predicting them to maybe win 7 games if everything fell into place this year. On the flip side, I do have to scold the SEC media because how in the hell did you have the Gators expected to finish above Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma? I know hindsight is 20/20, but looking at this at the end of the season just doesn't make any sense. Okay, that was a short little intro to set the table for the long, and when I say long, I mean long season ahead for the Florida Gators. But before we jump right into the bucket of moose shit that is Florida football, let's take a look at some of the men who made this incredible 2025 college football season possible for Florida. Leading the program in his 4th year up to that point, the biggest asshole to ever walk the sidelines in Gainesville at head coach Billy Napier. Let me chill, I can't call him an asshole, I don't know him, but man, did he make it tough to watch Gator football. I've never seen a coach take more delay of game penalties than Coach Napier. He's really the GOAT when it comes to delay of games. Coach Napier also had this offense flying, averaging 21.6 points per game, which ranked 111th out of 136 total college football teams. Pretty good for an offensive-minded coach if you ask me. Sliding over to the most important position in sports, quarterback, this team was led by DJ Lagway, who'd have an outstanding touchdown to interception ratio, passing for 2,264 yards with 16 touchdowns and only 14 interceptions. Man, I sure hope he doesn't enter the transfer portal. At running back, and one of this team's few bright spots, we have Jaden Baugh, who put together one hell of a football season, rushing for 1,170 yards with 8 touchdowns. This dude really was the entire heartbeat of this ball club, and nearly every game they won, he played a huge part in it. I was being sarcastic before when I said this, but I mean it retaining the Jaden Baugh. I really hope he doesn't enter the transfer portal. And finally, to round out some of the key players on offense, at wideout, this team leader was Vernell Brown III, catching 40 passes for 512 receiving yards. I remember doing a hot take video at the beginning of the year, and one of the takes was that Florida finally finishes with the 1,000-yard receiver for the first time since 2002. So much for that. To begin the 2025 college football season, the 13th ranked Florida Gators would do something they wouldn't do much at all this year, and actually win a football game. Now sadly it wasn't against a Division I FBS school as they would take down Long Island University 55-0, but hey, a win is still a win. Jaden Baugh played great, rushing for 104 yards and a touchdown. Quarterback DJ Lagway played alright, leaving the game early because they were up by so much. However, a lot of fans, including myself at the time, were a little worried about the decision to take him out early because he hadn't practiced much all spring and summer, so maybe he could have used a little more burn and prep for the Gators' next game against the USF Bulls. But hey, it's just the Bulls, and with Florida being 17.5-point home favorites, I'm sure quarterback DJ Lagway and the Florida Gators will be able to work the kinks out in real time. Yeah. In my infinite Tsukuyomi dream, Florida wins this game by 29 points. But in the cold ninja world where reality hits hard, the Gators would lose at home to the USF Bulls 18-16. Florida had no answer for Byron Brown, who looked like the next Cam Newton, passing for 263 yards and a touchdown, as well as adding 66 yards on the ground. He made big play after big play, while on the flip, Florida would do nothing but hurt themselves all game, settling for field goals instead of touchdowns, and racking up a disgusting total of 103 penalty yards. If Billy Napier wasn't on the hot seat already entering the season, this early season loss definitely had him halfway out of the door. Now. Let's look at the positive side of this loss. USF was a tough non-conference game to have to start the season with, and I'm sure after a couple of tune-up games before SEC play would begin, Florida could bounce back and get their season back on track. It's not like their next two games would be both on the road against two top 5 teams in LSU and Miami. Wait, what do you mean that's exactly what it would be? Oh shit.
His first SEC road start. He's on target in a nice kick, but he made all 3 last week against South Florida. Plenty of leg. And that one would have been good. On 3rd and 10. Good pocket and an interception. Picked off inside the 30-yard line by Deshaun Spear. Just a 3-man rush. Nussmeier toward the end zone. Touchdown. 2 out of 2 on 3rd down on this drive. Lagway from Mizell. Touchdown to get to 4 out of 8 for the game. 4-man rush, and he throws it away. Picked off. Threw it into double coverage over the. The only miss was from 51 wide right. That one is right down the middle. Lagway intercepted again. Coming down the sideline. Deshaun Spears. Touchdown Tigers. Lagway deep down the middle and intercepted for the 4th time. He'll need to quickly change the narrative after that loss last week. Lagway running for his life. Oh my goodness, it's pick number 5. That one was thrown up for grabs as much as it possibly could be.
Right here.
Offensive lineman wearing 46, the fullback, a 2-back look as Brown tries to just muscle his way in. Touchdown! 2nd and 16. Beck again has plenty of time. Now runs out of it and he'll be sacked. Ball down, kick driven, and it is hammered through. For halftime and 1 timeout. Carter Davis, I'm just thinking, bangs it through. It's 13. Trying to break free is Baugh. Stiff arm. Leans and scores. Florida. 6. Trying to get their offense reignited. Beck looking to throw on 1st down. Steps up, heaves it downfield, and it's intercepted. He threw it to Cormani McClain, the Colorado. Field to the left of the quarterback. He goes out in a short pass. Again, they squeeze a little pass in. Wait a minute, though. I don't think he got it. They're spotting it. No mystery. Pure power. They made it. Look, easy. Miami finds the end. Florida, 4th and 12. 4-man rush. Lagway escapes, fires over the middle, incomplete. Into the hands of Trey Wilson. He couldn't hold it, and that should do it. As the game...
Against all odds, the Florida Gators would somehow find a way to go 2-0 through these incredibly tough 2 games on the road against top 5 opponents. Excuse me, my bad. I'm so used to making videos where underdogs triumph through unspeakable odds that I kind of lost track when writing out this script. What I meant to say was the Florida Gators would get treated like a child who got a phone call home from school and get belt put to ass, losing to LSU 20-10 and Miami 26-7. Let's start with the Gators game versus the LSU Tigers. Yes, this game was ugly, especially if you like watching game managers at quarterback, because Lagway would throw 5 interceptions. I don't even remember the last time I've seen a quarterback throw that many interceptions. What Lagway did against LSU was truly special. And the craziest part is Florida was in this game for about 3 quarters, but bad coaching and just the inability to execute on the offensive side of the ball in key positions would spell out doom for my beloved Gators, as this game was iced in honestly the most poetic way you could have ever imagined. Lagway throwing a pick-6 interception. Beautiful. DJ Lagway played bad against LSU, it's no secret, but one bad game doesn't define a career, it's how you bounce back. And credit to Lagway, he wouldn't throw an interception against the Miami Hurricanes. Instead, he wouldn't throw the ball farther than 5 yards at all, as somehow DJ Lagway would manage to only pass for 61 yards on 23 attempts. I know I've been on Lagway's ass, pause, all video, and I feel like I need to shift some of the blame to the coaching staff, not the defensive side, because the defense would keep Florida in both of these games. Hell, it was a 1-score game against the Hurricanes with 5 minutes left in the 4th quarter. It's just the so-called offensive innovator, Billy Napier, couldn't call a game for shit. Tell me how the Gators' best player, Jaden Ball, only gets 12 carries against Miami and only 10 against LSU. It's little things like this that really made the Florida fanbase dislike him. Now 1-3 on the season, I'm not even going to say the panic button was being hit, because smart Gator fans knew the season was over after losing to the Bulls. And with Florida still having 4 games against top 10 opponents remaining on their schedule, 3 of which would all be future college football playoff teams, amateur lore was already starting to gear up for Florida basketball. Until something magical would happen. Let me paint y'all a picture. The big bad 9th-ranked Texas Longhorns were strolling into the swamp on the following Saturday, and something just felt a little different coming into this game. I know I've said plenty of times in this video so far that Billy Napier wasn't the best head coach, but coming into this Texas game, it seemed like he was in a flow state. Billy G knew he wasn't just coaching for his job, but he was also coaching for future jobs, because his ass was out of Florida 100% this year regardless. There was just one problem. The Cooper flag of college football, Archie Manning, and the 9th-ranked Texas Longhorns were still pretending to be a playoff team, and were coming into the swamp with the mindset of dominating Florida and keeping things pushing all the way to the 12-team playoffs. They must have not known what the great Billy Napier had in store for them. Cue the music.
As DJ Lagway will get the ball first. And he'll have it at about the 17-yard line. Bob Wischusen on third down, and Texas has been arguably the best defense in America in the early going. And just like that, the tables turn. Third down. Ball bounces it outside. Ball caught on the end zone. He's in. That's a Gators touchdown. Ball again. Another piece. Great balance with the stiff ball. Steps out of bounds again, but a red zone stop by the Texas defense forces the Gators into a field. They eventually try and get him the football. Roll out for Manning. Just inside the front right. Horns show blitz. Here they come. Lagway off his back foot. Finds a pressure. And Michael Sturdivant.
In this stadium right now.
Lagway, play action. End zone touchdown. Now Jack Bomeister drops the chase. Field position, and they block the punt through the back of the end zone for two.
Position.
Lagway looks at Sturdivant. Instead comes back the other way. One-on-one. He knocks it right down the middle. The only receiver that Texas signed in the portal from Stanford was Mosley, and he made a big play there. And now they're looking for another big play to the back of the end zone. And right now, still at about 220.
Yeah, he said he was a little bit lighter than that.
Lagway down the sideline. Inbounds Dallas Wilson. To the end zone, dragging Templars for a Gators touchdown. Manning, he wants it all. Again, DeAndre Moore, the intended receiver, and it's underthrown.
Get it.
Arch Manning tries to keep the play alive by shoveling a ball forward. They'll say he's down. George Gums gets the sack, and the clock's going to run out. It goes to 0. He tries to spike it. The clock's at all zeros.
Every dog has his day. Even Billy Napier, as him and the Florida Gators would take down the 9th-ranked Texas Longhorns 29-21. This game was just one of those games where the team who never has anything go right for them miraculously flips the script. Florida would dominate the box score, winning all of the important battles, outgaining Texas by about 100 yards on offense, while also owning the time of possession battle. DJ Lagway, and this might be the only time I say this throughout the entire video, looked like one of the best QBs in the SEC, passing for just shy of 300 yards with 2 touchdowns. Jaden Baugh would do his thing, rushing for a 107 with a cool tutty, but the breakout star of this matchup was easily wide receiver Dallas Wilson, breaking onto the scene, catching 6 passes for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. Before we move on, I also have to shout out this Gator defense who'd pick off quarterback Archie Manning twice, and even though at the end of this game, Billy Napier would do everything in his power to throw the game away, making some terrible decisions when it came to clock management, the Florida defense would clean up his mistakes, keeping Texas from tying the game. What a great effort from everyone except Coach Napier in this huge 29-21 win. After this well-needed win, the Gators would be sitting with a record on the season of 2-3, and more importantly would be 1-1 in SEC play. It might have been a long shot, but the Gators were definitely still in contention for one of the 12 playoff spots. All they had to do was run the table and win the SEC. Shouldn't be too hard. But before we move on to the middle part of the Florida football season, let's transition over to FSU and see what they had going on. Florida State, Florida State, Florida State. Coming into the 2025 college football season, the Florida State Seminoles were honestly sliding completely under the radar. Unlike the Gators, Florida State's expectations were kind of unknown, which trust me is definitely a good thing. I know both of these fan bases had pretty shitty years, but at least the Noles didn't begin the season highly ranked and actually expected to make some noise. 2024 was a complete disaster for Florida State, but 2023 was an amazing season where they would go 13-1, maybe getting scrubbed from the playoffs. And 2022 wasn't so bad also, going 10-3 and bringing home the Cheez-It Bowl back to where it belongs, Tallahassee. Mike Norvell, while not as prolific as a play caller as Billy Napier, has been really solid in his time in Florida State so far. I do understand that he's had a couple of stinkers in there, but coming from a Gator fan, things can get much worse. At least Coach Norvell has a sprinkle of genius from time to time. I honestly cannot say the same for Billy Napier. FSU in 2025 wasn't one of those teams coming into the season that everybody was talking about, as a good majority of college football outlets had the Seminoles expected to be a middle-of-the-road type of team, predicted to finish 9th in the ACC, by far the weakest P4 conference coming into the 2025 college football season, with teams such as Clemson, Miami, Georgia Tech, Louisville, SMU, Duke, NC State, and Pittsburgh all predicted to finish ahead of them. Take a second to let that sink in. A powerhouse like Florida State being predicted to finish that low in the weakest conference in the P4 right now. The disrespect being thrown FSU's way in the preseason was immeasurable. But if there was a bright side, no little peep, it would be that the preseason rankings are all hypotheticals and don't really hold any weight. And I'm sure Mike Norvell and his coaching staff would take the opportunity to turn that disrespect into fuel for his ball club. And they would need it, with their first game of the college football season being against the big bad Alabama Crimson Tide. But whoa. I'm getting way ahead of myself. Before we jump into that huge week 1 game, let's take a look at some of the Jits making noise in Tally. Leading the program in his 6th year up to that point at head coach, we have Mike Norvell. And y'all can joke on him all you want, but the fact of the matter is that he had this FSU offense looking like one of the top units in all of college football, for at least a quarter of the season. In all seriousness, FSU fans, please let me know down below in the comments how y'all really feel about Mike Norvell. I'm curious to know. Skating over to the quarterback position, the man leading this team was a dude who was not scared of Alabama at all, Thomas Castellanos, passing for 2,760 yards and 15 touchdowns. He would also lead the Noles in rushing, totaling 557 yards and 9 touchdowns. Florida State would have a committee of running backs, as 5 players would rush for more than 100 yards, but the man who would bear most of the load would be Gavin Sawchuk, rushing for 486 yards and 8 touchdowns. And finally, to round out this offense at wideout, we have an absolute beast, Deuce Robinson, catching 56 passes for 1,081 yards and 6 touchdowns. To open up the 2025 college football season, the Florida State Seminoles will be matching up with one of the juggernauts of college football, the 8th-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. And for those who are not aware, Alabama hasn't lost the season-opening game since 2001. Sheesh, that's a long time. And with Bama being 2 touchdown favorites on top of quarterback Thomas Castellanos talking a little bit of trash before the game, most college football fans, including myself, thought the Noles and Castellanos were in for a rude awakening. There's just one thing that I don't think anyone factored into their predictions. 2025 as a whole when it came to college football made no sense. So everything you thought you knew about college ball, yeah, go ahead and toss that out of the window.
The pre-kickoff grandeur that comes with it. You can dot all the I's, you can touch Howard's Rock, you can touch a big blue banner, but Chief Osceola and Renegade, something about this moment, take it in. Turning the corner into the end zone is Cuevas for the pass protection. 3rd down and 11, 4-man rush from Bama. Castellanos launches in and a diving effort.
Make it a big one.
Here's Castellanos to the outside, inside the 5, diving into that end zone with a stride. Bill O'Brien takes that job and then he reunites here with Malzahn. Here is Danzy now, and look at Mackay Danzy. How about it, Noles? But there was a key one for Florida State that's making an impact already. Castellanos on 2nd and 7. Oh, Tommy with a to attempt the 45-yard field goal. Castellanos finds his man in stride, and it's Jalen Lucas. Look at Lucas go! Holmes, short side of the field, trying to get the pylon, and he does! He pulls it. He gets it to Scott. Scott on his feet. Scott trying to get to the pylon, and he does! Sawchuk, straight ahead inside the 10, keeping his balance, getting help from his friends, finding his way to the goal line and aim. This rebooted, refreshed, re-energized Florida State team knocking off number 8 Alabama. The first big field stormer of the year.
I'll be the first one to admit it. I didn't think there was a chance in hell that Florida State would take down the 8th-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. In fact, I was so sure Alabama was going to win that I placed at least 4 live-action bets on the Tide to come back. But as we all saw, FSU would straight up dominate the Alabama Crimson Tide, winning 31-17, leaving amateur Laura Broke living under a bridge. Florida State's offense was juiced this game for sure, especially the rushing attack. They would rush for 230 yards on this Bama defense. Quarterback Thomas Castellanos would hit his shots downfield when the time came, passing for 152 yards as well as adding another 78 on the ground with a touchdown. The Noles defense also played a huge part in this win. They would give up some yards, but whenever they needed to buck up and make key stops, they'd always rise to the occasion. Overall, a great and unexpected performance from the Florida State Seminoles to begin the 2025 college football season. Was it a sign of things to come? Now 1-0 on the season, FSU would catapult from being unranked all the way up to the 14th spot in the latest polls, which is to be expected. They just tore apart the 8th ranked team in the country. After being tasked with an incredibly tough first game of the season, FSU would get to play in 2 tune-up games before ACC play was set to begin versus East Texas A&M and Kent State. You would have thought Scotty Barnes was still hooping with the Seminoles, the way they were scoring points in these 2 games, winning easily against East Texas A&M 77-3 and Kent State 66-10. 3-0 on the season, moving up in the polls to the 8th spot in the country, the Florida State Seminoles were rolling through the early part of the 2025 college football season. FSU was starting to make noise as a potential 12-team playoff team. They had the talent on both sides of the ball to do it, and most importantly, their offense looked unstoppable. As through 3 games, their offensive ranks were nearly all top 10. The Florida State Seminoles were red hot, and the entire country had their eyes on the Noles matchup coming up in a couple of weeks against the 3rd-ranked Miami Hurricanes. That matchup would for sure feed families for generations. All the Noles had to do was handle their business in their first game of ACC play. A little trap game on the road against the 3-1 Virginia Cavaliers. While this game was going to be tough because you have a highly ranked team coming into the castle of an upset-hungry college football program, Florida State should be able to weather the storm and survive a tough road game. Right?
It might be a trap game tonight at Scott Stadium. The crowd's still filling in. It will be rocking prime time. The Seminoles of Florida State come to Virginia. Morris to throw. Into the end zone. He's got a man for a touchdown. Play action. Castellanos. Tip ball. Intercepted. They bring a blitz. Morris steps up in the pocket. He's going to run. He gets to the 5. Reaches the ball out. A Virginia touchdown. A wildcat formation. Sawchuk takes the direct snap and goes up the middle untouched. They scored a touchdown out of a wildcat formation once, and they'll do it again here. Morris to throw again. Has all day. Slings one. Tapped and intercepted. It went off. Castellanos with a fake. Castellanos to the end zone. Inside the 10-yard line at the 7. He'll keep it. He'll score. Some of your screen to the near side right. Quarterback draw. Castellanos to the 20-yard line. Castellanos bounces it to the 10. He's out of bounds. Close one. He'll run it again. Jump pass instead. Yes. Morris, wheel route. Drives it in. Save.
They got a corner and a safety shading to him.
They bring another blitz. Castellanos on the move. Castellanos into the end zone. Diving attempt. Touchdown. Play action for Morris. Rolling out. Tucks it under. Hunting the pylon. He got there. Morris to throw. Into the end zone. Caught into the back of the end zone with a flag out.
Help. Is it going to be one-on-one?
Castellanos looking that way. Guess who? Bobbled. Did he hold on? Deuce Robinson. Did he have control?
After further review, pass was incomplete.
Here comes the blitz. Castellanos in trouble. Heaves one towards the end zone. Intercepted. It's over. Virginia has done it.
Well, I'll be damned. As soon as Florida State got some expectations put on them, Virginia would teach them a hard lesson of why you have to bring your A game every single Saturday. Well, in this case, Friday, as Virginia would take down the 8th-ranked Florida State Seminoles 46-38 in double overtime. It's no secret Florida State played sloppy as they would turn the ball over 3 times. Their defense, who had been pretty stout so far during the season, would get gashed, giving up 211 rushing yards, and for some reason they had no answer for quarterback Chandler Morris's legs whenever Virginia would get down into the red zone as he would rush for 3 touchdowns. Even with saying all of that, FSU still managed to pull some magic out of the hat, having a chance to win the game in overtime. But the Cavaliers were not being denied. This matchup had trap game written all over it, and that's exactly what it was, as Florida State would suffer their first loss of the season 46-38. Ouch, definitely a tough loss, bringing the Noles' record on the 2025 college football season to 3-1, with their ranking falling all the way back to the 18th spot in the latest polls. Now, while this was undoubtedly a bad loss to have, especially right before arguably the biggest game of your season against the 3rd-ranked Miami Hurricanes, if you're looking at the glass half full, it was only one loss, And in the Noles' next 4 games of ACC play against Miami, Pittsburgh, Stanford, and Wake Forest, the Noles should be at the very least favored in 3 out of the 4 games, with of course the one exception being the first matchup of this 4-game stretch against the Miami Hurricanes. However, FSU would be getting Miami at home, so that should be a big advantage for the Noles, as Doak Campbell Stadium is one of the toughest places to play in the country. Those fans in Talent are wild, and if I was a betting man, which who am I kidding, I am. Actually, I'm a gambling degenerate, but that's besides the point. What was my point actually? I get easily distracted when I start thinking about gambling. Oh yeah, the point is, Florida State's home field advantage is a real thing, and in their next 4 games, 3 of them will be at home, especially the most important game of this stretch, the first one against 3rd-ranked Miami. Could the Florida State Seminoles keep their 2025 12-team playoff hopes alive, or would they end up like my Florida Gators, fighting to just stay above 500 halfway through the season?
Castellanos took a peek, now takes off. Electric speed, especially. And the chip shot is pounded through. Back, off the play fake. Launches downfield for a second time, and it's caught by... Fake it to Brown. Slant, touchdown, C.J. Daniels. Trying to get the case to jump. Now the snap comes, but he didn't appear to be ready. Throws it off his back foot, and it's intercepted. That play was sloppy from the start. Running it back, the Canes get near midfield. Back. And it's a flea flicker. Back, launches downfield. Tony's out there. He's got a touchdown, Mike. Beck looking to throw. They bring pressure. It's picked up. Caught. Tony off and running. Malachi Tony. He doesn't lose foot races. Snap for that completion there. Daniels in traffic. C.J. Daniels dives to the end zone. And Miami. Big time. Robinson has yet to make a reception in this half. He's off to the left. Castellanos is running. And now flips it into the end zone. Touchdown. From the pocket, steps up, flips it short, caught, touch. It's spinning, and it's recovered. And once again,
Heinschel taking a shot, got a man, and it's caught for it. Florida State going with tempo. Castellanos setting up the deep ball, and the ball is caught for a touchdown by Danzig. Pressure off the edge. Castellanos trying to avoid the sack and throws it up for grabs, and it's caught for a touchdown. Into the end zone. Turner with the pick touchdown. 4-man rush this time. Castellanos from the pocket, airing it out. He's got a man, and it's caught inside the 10. Danzig, touchdown, Florida. Sidewinder. It is recovered by Pitt. Florida.
Branson needs to be careful. On the slide across the goal line, and there it is. On 3rd and 5, Castellanos takes off to the edge. Castellanos leapfrogs into the end zone. They call it nerd ball here. Stanford, California, tab to the edge, tab inside the 10. It'll be 1st and goal. Right guard, let's do it again. Tab across the goal line, and he's in. The coming days out of Tallahassee. Sperry still with a prayer. Goes deep, 4 seconds remaining. Long ball, and inside the 10, it was.
He's 233.
The snap gets away, Sperry picks it up. Gotta go to the end zone, on the way. Incomplete! There's a flag! Sawchuk in the backfield, Sperry on the shovel pass. Did he get there? Matt Rose with the taper.
The game is not over. The ruling on the field is the ball carrier is short of the goal line. The previous play is under further review. The field of the runner being short of the goal line is uphill. That's the ball game.
Another upset in the ACC.
Fakes the handoff on the roll. He's going to keep it and walks it to the end zone. 3rd and short. He hands Hand it off up the middle, and he squirts through for a touchdown. Sawchuk burrows his way forward, touchdown.
Well, I guess FSU would not be making the 2025 12-team college football playoffs. Actually, after going 1-3 through this 4-game stretch of ACC play, Florida State making a bowl game might even be out of the realm of possibility. So how did we get to this point? Well, starting with the Noles game against the third-ranked Hurricanes, they would hurt themselves a lot during this matchup, turning the ball over 3 times, with 2 of those turnovers leading to 14 points for the Miami Hurricanes. Florida State also had no answer for the quarterback-wide receiver duo of Carson Beck and Malachi Toney, as they would torch the Seminole defense all night long. Beck would pass for 241 yards and 4 touchdowns, while wideout Malachi Toney would catch 7 passes for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. Surprisingly, the Noles managed to keep the Hurricanes' power running game in check, giving up less than 100 yards, which isn't nothing to scoff at whatsoever, as the Hurricanes have been torching teams all year, especially in the 2025 playoffs, leaning on that strong running game all the way to the national title game. But none of that means anything if you can't stop Carson Beck and Malachi Toney, losing 28-22. The next L Florida State would take during this stretch would be against Pitt, losing 34-31, and to the Noles' credit, they played a much better overall game. They were able to move the ball anytime they wanted, at least in the first half, scoring 3 touchdowns on their first 5 drives, going up into halftime on Pittsburgh 21-14. However, this game would be a tale of 2 halves, as in the second, I think Florida State forgot how to play football, because 3 out of their 6 second-half drives would result in 3 and outs. While on the flip, the Panthers would start to execute at a shockingly elite level, scoring points on 4 out of their first 5 drives of the second half, resulting in Pitt going up 34-24 with less than 2 minutes remaining in the ballgame. FSU would score late to make this game interesting, but in the end, it's hard to win games when you need to always recover an onside kick at the end of the game. I think the loss that hurt the most during this stretch had to be the L the Noles took against Stanford, losing 20-13, in a game they were favored by nearly 3 scores in. I really feel bad for any diehard Seminole fans that stayed up extra late to watch this shit show of a ball game. Because after losing 3 games in a row, I'm sure there were a lot of fans that expected this game to be a nice return to form. But as we all know, that would not be the case. It must have been extra painful too, because Florida State had some incredible plays in the final minutes of the game, actually having a chance to tie the game and send it into overtime. But sadly, he was just short. Let's end the stretch on a positive note. Staring down a 5th loss in a row at home against Wake Forest, FSU was in major need of a win, or they would be sitting at 3-5 and have a hard climb back into bowl game contention. And major props to them, because they would easily play their best game of the stretch, winning 42-7, putting their record after this brutal 4-game stretch of ACC play at 4-4. Yikes, the fall off had been pretty rough for the Florida State Seminoles. Just only a couple of weeks ago, the Noles were ranked inside of the top 10 and looking like one of the best teams in the country. Fast forward till after this 4-game stretch, and now fingers were being pointed and the seat coaches sit on were starting to heat up. Man, reality can hit hard like a bus. So while FSU is dealing with the cold truth of their 2025 college football season, let's rotate back over to the swamp and see how the Gators were doing battling it out in the stacked SEC for one of the 12 college football playoff spots. Alright, so after the Florida Gators would take down the Peyton, Eli, and Archie Manning-led 9th-ranked Texas Longhorns, which let's all be real, at the beginning of the year, every single media outlet in the world was hyping up this 2025 Texas Longhorns football team. So the Gators had pretty much just won the national championship, taking them down. But y'all aren't ready to have that conversation just yet. So now tied for 7th in the SEC standings, only back like 1 spot from 2nd, the Gators had gotten a second life, a new chance to rewrite their entire 2025 college football season. Was this the start of Billy Napier's redemption arc? Absolutely not. Texas A&M would shut that shit down extremely quick, winning 34-17. Florida actually played pretty decent in this game, keeping up with the Aggies' offense for a couple of quarters. But let's be real, expecting Florida to play consistent on the offensive side of the ball for 4 quarters is asking way too much. Shame on you for thinking that. Now 2-4 in the season, with sadly our playoff hopes evaporating from thin air, there wasn't much really left to play for. Well, besides pride, and if there was one thing Billy Napier had instilled into this Gator football program in his short time here, it was to love your brothers and play your heart out. And against Mississippi State in Billy Napier's final game coaching the Florida Gators, he made sure to end it with a bang, winning 23-21. Billy Napier was out as the Florida Gators head coach, and to my horror, we would be dropping one Billy for another, specifically Billy Gonzalez. I'm just playing. I know it must have been hard to step into the position he did, and in the end, I'm thankful he made the last couple games of the 2025 college football season, at the very least entertaining to watch for a Gator fan. So what was he tasked with as the new head coach of the Florida Gators? Well, his next 4 games would be versus 5th-ranked Georgia, Kentucky, 7th-ranked Ole Miss, and 20th-ranked Tennessee. If you were viewing this video and thought this was the part when the Gators triumph against all the odds and beat the big bad college football teams in front of them, you'd be extremely wrong. Winning wasn't an option during this little stretch to bring us into rivalry week. Just playing good and maybe even covering the spread would be a win in my eyes.
8th play of this opening drive for Georgia. Stuck into the end zone.
Has to do with his footwork.
That was only a 25-yard punt by Thorson. Lagway. Downfield throw is caught and a score. Very good. 2nd and 5. Stockton, touchdown. He bailed him out. First and goal. And right into the end zone is Jaden Ball. High snap, but they get it down, and smack puts it. Owens, and look at Chauncey Bowens. Here he goes. Lagway to stay alive, incomplete.
He doesn't want to play anymore. 3rd and 7. Over the middle, complete, and a dive in for the touchdown. Their foot on the neck of a program that's playing under an interim coach. Bully down the sideline, touchdown. Jason unbalanced. And it's a direct snap. McGowan, he is in. A couple of playoff contending teams remaining on the schedule. Huge hole. Here goes Dante Dowdell. Dowdell inside the 10, into the end zone. 65.
Very often with Florida's front four. Elon Lacey to the goal line. Dives. Did he break the play? The officials coming in from either side. Is it a record setter? It's a touchdown. Fabian Harris has 6 career blocked kicks. How about DJ Lagway just does it himself? With a linebacker, Aaron Childs trying to pave the way for Jaden Ball. And there is the go-ahead. They get it off. It's a 4-man rush. Cleaner pocket this time and a strike. Dejon Scribbling splits the defense. Stumbles into the end zone. Lagway dropping. He's going to take a shot. Looking for start advantage. Stride at the pylon. He's in for the touchdown. 3rd down. High snap. Shambles pulls it down. Kaywan Lacey busts it. Eyeing the end zone. Brought down at the 1-yard line. Direct snap to Lacey. Freeway to the end zone. Lacey. Hits the goal line. He's got a hat trick.
Bishop again, leaping, somersaulting into the end zone. Yeah, I think you can go ahead and jump the gun. Touchdown, Tennessee. Thomas behind a lot of power players, just muscles in. Number 6 when they visit the Swamp. Lagway downfield, caught for a touchdown. Ball out of the backfield. Continues an impressive night.
To my surprise, the Florida Gators would go 0-4 in their last little stretch of SEC play of the 2025 college football season. I say to my surprise because I expected the Gators to at least catch one win at the very least. Not against Georgia or any of the ranked teams, but maybe Kentucky. I at the very least thought maybe that game would be a little bit more competitive, and if it was still close going into the 4th quarter, maybe Florida could pull some magic out of the hat. Obviously, as you all just saw, that wouldn't happen. Honestly though, I can't be too mad because Florida, while not winning any of these games, really played their heart out in some of these matchups, especially against Georgia and Ole Miss. That Georgia game, boy was it a movie for the first 55 minutes. Amateur lore can be extremely delusional sometimes when it comes to Florida football, and during this game, I'll be the first to tell you, I thought we had this game in the bag halfway through the 4th. Man, I really wonder what would have happened if the Gators would have converted on that 4th and 1 deep in Georgia's territory up 20-17. They were really moving the ball efficiently, and I'm sure if they convert, they score a touchdown and take a 10-point lead on the future SEC champions. But that's just my fan fiction. In reality, actually more like reality kings, because the Gators would fuck themselves as they would not convert on 4th and 1, getting stuffed, leading to Georgia marching down the field, scoring 7 to retake the lead 24-20. Florida would get the ball back with the chance to win the game, but would turn the ball over on downs, losing 24-20. How many times in this video have I said a team from Florida has lost a game? It's getting ridiculous at this point. And all of this goes without saying, after losing to Georgia, of course Florida would lose to Kentucky 38-7, Ole Miss 34-24, and finally Tennessee 31-11. 11 games into the 2025 college football season, and one of the most historically dominant programs in all of college football was sitting with only 3 wins, one of which came against a non-D1 FBS opponent, so Florida might as well have only won 2 games. It doesn't take a scientist like Dr. Vegapunk to tell y'all that Florida would not be making a bowl game. Which back in like the mid-2010s, this would make huge news and have the Gator faithful in an uproar. But in the year of our Lord 2025, Florida not making a bowl game doesn't really shock anyone. So what now? The mighty Florida Gators were sitting at 3-8 on the season with 1 game left to play. And it wasn't just any ordinary last game, it would be against their hated in-state rivals, the Florida State Seminoles. Our 2025 season was super duper plus ultra shitty, but taking down Florida State for the 2nd straight season would make every single Gator fan on planet Earth forget about how ugly this year went. Probably not, this year was really shitty, but a win could help everyone start healing. Before we hop into one of the biggest rivalry games of the 2025 college football season, let's rotate over back to Tallahassee and see how the 4-4 Florida State Seminoles would finish off ACC play. Alright, so 4-4 on the season with 3 games remaining in conference play, the Florida State Seminoles were in a very interesting position. Since one of the Noles' wins earlier in the season came against a Division I non-FBS opponent, they would need to win at the very least 3 out of the remaining 4 games if they wanted to make a bowl game. Normally winning 3 out of your remaining 4 games shouldn't be too much of a problem, especially on the back half of your schedule for a program as coveted as FSU. But as we've seen so far this season, nothing was guaranteed when it came to Seminole football. So how did they do? Well, this video is already pushing about 40 plus minutes, so we're going to speed run past the next 3 games for FSU. The Noles would lose to Clemson 24-20, defeat Virginia Tech 34-14, and lose to North Carolina State 21-11, putting their record so far on the year at 5-6. Remember how like 20 seconds ago I told you that since FSU beat an FCS opponent, that win wouldn't count towards them going to a bowl game? Well, I lied. You can count a FCS win towards making a bowl game, but only one win. So you know what that means, right? If Florida State could take down the Florida Gators in their final game of the season, they would make a bowl game, and more importantly, depending on who you ask, prevent something that hasn't happened since 1978. Both of these juggernaut college football programs not making a bowl game in the same year. Things were definitely split when it came to the history both of these teams could make with the win or loss. The Gators fan base, including myself, could give a damn about us not making a bowl game. Shit, with Florida sitting at 3-8 on the season, legit all these young men had left to play for was the love of the game. Okay, that's a fib. This game was definitely beneficial for the shit ton of players transferring out after this year, pretty much gave them an opportunity to get some more tape on film. But let's all be naive for a second and just pretend the players were in it for the love of the game. On the flip, the FSU fanbase was looking to laugh all the way to the Duke Mayo Bowl, while Florida sat at home watching FSU lose to Northwestern or some shit. Who knows? Point is, the house was divided, no pun intended, when it came down to FSU versus UF. This game was expected to be an extra tight one with Florida being slightly favored by 1.5 points, meaning it was anyone's game, and would probably come down to which team shot themselves in the foot the least. What more could you ask for? 2 of the biggest rivals, 2 of the most historical programs in all of college football, as well as 2 of the worst teams from the 2025 college football season. Fuck the records, who cares about all of the losses? At the end of the day, this was a rivalry game between 2 teams who... Is hate even the right word? No, I can do better. 2 teams and fan bases who detested each other and everything they stood for. A win here from either team could erase all the bad that came from the 2025 season. FSU versus UF for history, pride, and most importantly, bragging rights.
Making plays with his legs.
Florida sends pressure. Castellanos in trouble.
For DJ Lagway.
Florida been bad on 3rd down this season. Needs 7 to keep this drive alive, and they get it. J. Michael Sturdivant inside the... To open the scoring from 23 yards, puts it right through. Handoff Sawchuk. Drilled and dropped. Turnover on downs. And 10. Lagway. Pump and go. Lets it fly on 1st down. It's caught. J. Michael Sturdivant hauled it.
Personnel set.
Play action. Lagway slings it for a touchdown. And nothing lead for the Gators. Right now on defense. Big hole opens up. A couple of broken tackles. Sam Singleton, his first carry of... Castellanos rolls left, slings it. It's caught. 1st down, Florida State. Makai dancing, post in. Touchdown. The extra effort for a Florida State touchdown. Lagway does just that. Play action leads to a Florida touchdown. Trip Brown up there. Lagway throws, dangerous ball. It's intercepted. Edwin Joseph has it. And he's pushed out of bounds as the Seminoles score. Castellanos kept it, scrambles, and he's in. Touchdown, Florida State. Lagway goes under center. Play action, rolls out, throws. It's caught. Pitch. Here's Baugh. Burst of speed, untouched, into the end zone. Jaden Baugh. Castellanos in trouble, rolling right. His eyes are in the end zone. Throws. It's caught. Touchdown, Florida field. 3 yards ends it. Baugh has the 3 yards, breaks a tackle and scores. The Jaden Baugh game. Calls ball game.
And literally everybody in the stadium and everybody
in the state of Florida
watching at home knew this ball was going to Jaden Baugh, and you still can't stop it.
That's the Seminoles. Final
Final play of the game, a heave and an interception. And that will finish it. Ben Hanks, the freshman corner, puts a stamp